Are you looking for a solid plan to become more successful? Your desire for success may be in your career, your marriage, becoming a better parent, overcoming a temptation. There are many areas in which we search for success. Each of us is striving to be successful in an area or areas of our lives. There are a lot of success principles espoused by authors today. There are a lot of materials written on the subject. There are seminars on how to achieve success. I have found that the method is usually not as important as the faith that fuels the effort to succeed. A good example is found in a story we will look at today. It is found in Joshua 6, 1 through 21. God prescribed a plan of victory for his people to conquer Jericho. It was the whole marching around the city 7 days thing. It wasn't something the popular generals of the day might have devised in their war room. God's method was and is always based on faith. To succeed, we must allow God to lift us beyond the visible. Joshua 6, 2 through 5 says, "Then the Lord said to Joshua, See, I have delivered Jericho into your hands, along with its king and its fighting men. March around the city once with all the armed men. Do this for 6 days. On the 7th day, march around the city 7 times, with the priests blowing the trumpets. When you hear them sound a long blast on the trumpets, have the whole army give a loud shout. Then the wall of the city will collapse, and the army will go up, everyone straight in." That is hardly something any successful and serious military strategist would have suggested doing. God's plan was based on the exercise of faith. He wanted the people to get beyond the visible and see the invisible as reality. In Hebrews 11:1, "Now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see." God can use the little and insignificant things to take down the large and impossible. God is able to expand on our best. He lifts us beyond the visible. We must allow God to lead us to obey his teachings. The people were faced with a hard choice. They could march around the city and pray they would not be detected, or they could argue about the dangers of the plan God had presented to them. They could have formed committees to evaluate and to strategize and to suggest alternative ways to conquer the city. The principle here is one of obedience. God commanded the people, and it was a test of their obedience. How many times do we continue struggling with something that seems insurmountable because we haven't yet learned to be obedient to God's teaching? We must obey God's teachings, and we must allow God to lengthen our level of trust in him. In verse 20, "When the trumpet sounded, the army shouted, and at the sound of the trumpet, when the men gave a loud shout, the wall collapsed. So everyone charged straight in, and they took the city." God asks us to do things every day that require our expressing our trust in him. He engineers tests to lengthen our level of trust in him. We want to do things our way, but we stumble and fall trying. God takes our stumbling and turns it into stepping stones to success. We need to lengthen our trust in him. And then we must allow God to link us with his divine power. In verse 16, "The 7th time around, when the priest sounded the trumpet blast, Joshua commanded the army, 'Shout, for the Lord has given you the city.'" Walking around the wall 7 times must have made the people feel so vulnerable. But then the silence was broken with the trumpet blast. God said, "You have the city." The world laughs at our weapons of warfare. They think we are feeble and helpless. When we link our weakness with God's strength, we are more than conquerors through him who sent us. We need the power of God to complement our own weaknesses and make us strong in victory. We need to let God link us with his divine power. And we must allow God to let us proceed as he lays our barriers down. In verse 20, "When the trumpet sounded, the army shouted, and at the sound of the trumpet, when the men gave a loud shout, the wall collapsed. So everyone charged straight in and they took the city. Look at the suddenness with which God moved and with which God took down the barriers to their success. What's your barrier? We need to allow and trust God to let us proceed as He removes the barriers before us. You may feel you are in a hopeless situation. Not so if God is leading you. He can remove our obstacles at His word. I believe in positive thinking and positive principles if they are complemented by a faith twist. Faith unlocks the door to success. These are 5 simple success solutions.